Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome in to Health and Wellness Sundays. Stella, Health and Wellness Life Coach here. Anyway, today I'm going to address iron, one of the micronutrients. My reports on these, when I get through reading and I'm writing everything down, they're so long that I'm having to try to do one micro mineral at a time. This is a micro mineral, and this is iron. So anyway, I'm going to get started, and then at the end I'm going to demonstrate the Arnold workout for the shoulders, for those of you that want really, really toned shoulders. So here we go. Iron is a chemical with the symbol Fe and the atomic number of 26. It is a metal in the first transition series. Iron is by mass, it's the most common metal or element on Earth, and it is forming much of the Earth's crust and the inner core. It is actually the fourth most common element in the Earth's crust. Iron is. Okay, how does that relate to the body? The body needs iron to make hemoglobin, hemoglobin is your red blood cells, the protein within the blood that carries oxygen. Your red blood cells transports oxygen to your working muscles, working organs, wherever it is needed. The body also needs iron to make myoglobin. And what myoglobin is, it's a small oxygen binding protein found in the heart, the skeletal muscles. It also functions as an oxygen storage unit, providing extra oxygen for the muscles to keep working at a high level of activity for longer periods, such as a long distance runner that is running long distance. The body also uses iron to make connective tissue, including those within the blood vessels that allow them to control the blood pressure. So it's a very important mineral, micro mineral. Now I'm going to get into the iron deficiency. Iron deficiency occurs when the body does not have enough of the mineral iron. This leads to abnormally low red blood cell levels. If your body does not have enough hemoglobin, your tissue and muscles will not get enough oxygen, will not be able to work effectively. And this will lead to anemia. And anemia can be pretty serious. Common causes of iron deficiency, finger licking, include inadequate iron intake due to poor diet or a restrictive diet, or inflammation, an inflammatory bowel disease in your bowels. Increased requirements during pregnancy for some women, blood loss through heavy periods for a lot of women, or internal bleeding. If you have some sort of something going on you're not aware of and you're bleeding internally. Iron deficiency can affect the quality of your life. These include poor health, poor concentration, and poor work productivity. Signs and symptoms of this is usually tiredness due to less oxygen reaching the body and the brain tissue, depriving them. You're not getting that energy. Paleness in general, or in specific areas such as the face, the lower inner eyelids, or nails may be a sign of moderate or severe deficiency. This is caused by lower levels of hemoglobin, which gives the blood its red color. Or shortness of breath. And it's a symptom of iron deficiency since low hemoglobin transports oxygen to muscles and tissues effectively. So what's happening is you're breathing harder because your body is not getting enough oxygen for energy, and it has to work a little harder just when you walk across the room or climb stairs. Headaches and dizziness. Now, this could be a sign of an iron deficiency because what happens is the blood vessels swell and causing pressure inside the brain. And they're swelling because they're trying to get that oxygen and iron into the brain for function. Heart palpitations. The heart has to work extra hard to transport oxygen around the body. And this can lead to irregular heartbeats, fast heartbeats, heart murmurs, and also an enlarged heart that's known as angina, and heart failure. It can also lead to heart failure. So our low iron can really be a serious issue. It can also dry, damage hair and skin. This is because when your body is iron deficient is what happens is it redirects the oxygen, the iron, to more important functions such as, heart, lungs, organs, other bodily tissue, and it can cause severe hair loss. And it doesn't consider, your body is self-regulating, so if it has to make a choice when you have a deficiency, it's gonna try to keep you alive and forget the hair and the beautiful skin. So anyway, swelling and soreness of the tongue and mouth. A sore, swollen, or strangely smooth tongue can be a sign of iron deficiency. Anemia. Cracks on the corners of the mouth can also be a sign. Restless legs. If you have a deficiency and you have anemia and you're trying to go to sleep at night, and when you're at rest, that's just generally, or you're just resting on the couch, you get this feeling where you need to move. You want to move your legs, your extremities. Brittle or spoon-shaped fingernails. Brittle nails can be an indicator of a more severe iron deficiency or anemia, which anemia is an iron deficiency. Other more generic signs of deficiency may include strange food cravings, feeling anxious, cold hands and cold feet, and an increase of infections. Now that I talked about the deficiency, now I'm going to talk about toxicity when you have too much iron. The harmful iron toxicity, it refers to the harmful effects of excessive iron when you have too much iron. It may occur when people overdose on iron supplements or on iron supplements. Taking high doses of supplements too long, suffer from chronic overload disorders. For most people, iron overload is not a concern. Iron overload refers to a gradual buildup of too much iron in the body. It is caused by the body's regulatory system failing to keep iron within healthy limits. For most people, this is not a problem, unless you have this hereditary hemochromatosis. What that is a disorder in which your iron salts are deposited in the tissue, leading to liver damage and diabetes and mellitus and bronze discoloration of the skin. It's very rare. There's only about 200,000 cases diagnosed per year, so it's rare, as in the United States, that is. The body has no effective way to get rid of excessive iron. Blood loss is the most effective way, and that means donating your blood frequently on a regular basis. If you are at risk, you can minimize the risk by reducing your intake of iron, rich iron foods, reducing the intake, mainly red meats. Iron overload can lead to many health problems. Iron and cancer risk. This was a surprise to me. I did not realize this could cause cancer. There is no doubt iron overload leads to cancer in both animals and humans. It appears regular blood donation lowers this risk. Observational studies suggest that high intake of hemi-iron is found only in meat protein, animal meat, red meat. It increases the risk of colon cancer, and there's been a rash overload of colon cancer around the United States because a lot of people are consuming high doses of red meat, and that is contributing to this. Clinical trials in humans show that hemi-iron from supplements or red meat increases the formation of cancer-causing nitroso compounds in the digestive tract. Bottom line, iron overload disorders have been linked with an increase in cancer risk. Iron and infection risk. Both iron overload and iron deficiency appear to make people more susceptible to infection. 2 reasons for this. The immune system uses iron to kill harmful bacteria, so some iron is needed to fight your infections. Elevated levels of iron, too much iron, stimulates the growth of bacteria and viruses. It feeds them. So too much iron can have the opposite effect and increase the risk of infections. Bottom line, iron overload, high dose supplementation may increase the risk of the infections. Iron in high quantities can be dangerous unless you have an iron overload disorder. You do not need to worry about getting too much from your diet. Never take iron supplements unless a doctor has recommended that you do so. Your food sources for iron is shellfish, and it may increase the HDL cholesterol, which is the high density lipoproteins in your blood, which is considered the good cholesterol, but all cholesterol is good because both cholesterols serve a purpose. Like I said, your body is a lot smarter than any doctor. It is self-regulating and does know how to take care of itself, long as you treat it with respect and don't put crap in your body. Spinach, a source of vitamin C, significantly boosts the iron absorption, and it also reduces some of the cancer risk and decreases inflammation. So that's a good plus with spinach. Liver and organ meat, rich in selenium, neem, vitamin A, and choline. Legumes, which of course is beans, lima beans, kidney beans, any kind of good bean, chickpeas. In order to maximize the absorption of the iron, consume with the legumes foods high in vitamin C, such as tomatoes, greens, or citrus fruits. Pumpkin seeds. I love pumpkin seeds. I drive around when I'm driving from gym to gym and from client to client. I always have Brazil nuts and pumpkin seeds and some kind of nut in my car to munch on in between. So, pumpkin seeds are one of my favorites. And pumpkin seeds is also a very good source for magnesium, as is most nuts. Quinoa, high in protein, folate, minerals, and antioxidants. Turkey, especially the dark meat of the turkey, it has the iron in it. But what I like about turkey is it promotes fullness. It gives you that satiated feeling so you don't overeat. And it increases your metabolism. Broccoli, high in vitamins C and K and folate, and it also reduces cancer risk. Tofu. Now, tofu is made out of soy. It's soy-based, and it improves heart health and relieves menopausal symptoms for ladies that are experiencing menopause at this stage in their life. You know, heat flashes, memory lapses. I know a couple people that are going through menopause right now, and they're not having any fun. Dark chocolate. I love dark chocolate. Dark chocolate contains copper prebiotic fiber and nourishes friendly gut bacteria. And it has an antioxidant activity, and it reduces the risk of heart attack and stroke. The bottom line on this is iron is an important mineral, and regularly you need to be consuming it regularly, and your body, because your body cannot produce it on its own. And yet some people need to limit their intake of the heme iron, which is the animal meat and supplements. And you got to remember to include vitamin C to boost your iron absorption. Now, I have one of the latest researches here on my iPad, and I felt the need to read this to you. I think all this is really important. But I'm going to read the part about how the iron is absorbed into your body. Absorption of iron is one of the first steps in iron metabolism, and the metabolism is a process of chemical interactions that generate energy from the food that you are consuming. Iron metabolism is part of the process that manages iron in the body. Abnormal iron metabolism can result in too much or too little iron in the body, and this can cause poor health, and it can even cause death, whether it's to one extreme or the other. Either way, you're screwed. Iron enters the stomach where it is exposed to the stomach acid, the acid that's secreted when you eat to help break down the food and change it into a form that it allows it to be absorbed into your system. The portion of the small intestine called the duodenum, which is right outside the stomach and at the beginning of the small intestines, where your intestines attach to the stomach, is the chief area where iron absorption takes place. There may be a second minor absorption site near the end of the small intestine tract. Once iron is absorbed, it is transported by a protein called transferrin. Each molecule of transferrin carries 2 atoms of iron. When working normally, transferrin binds to iron and transports it to all tissue, vital organs, bone marrow, and so that the normal metabolism DNA synthesizes and red blood cells can produce the production to make those red blood cells. It has to have that to take place. Now recently, this is the part that is very interesting. Recently, scientists have discovered that transferrin does not work completely alone in iron transportation. It needs ceruloplasmin. That is a major copper-containing protein in the plasmin in your blood, and it's also involved in iron transport. Iron needs adequate amounts of copper to reach some of its intended destinations, and one of them is the brain. You need that for thought processes. Transferrin is the major transporter of iron, and it is ideally saturated with iron. Transferrin molecules that are heavily saturated, lose the ability to hold on to iron. Unbound or free iron is highly destructive and dangerous. Unbound iron can trigger free radical activity, which causes the cells deaths and destroys the DNA. Unbound iron is sometimes called uncontrolled iron. One place that transferrin carries iron to is the ferritin. Ferritin is a protein that acts like a large holding vessel, which I spoke about storage of the iron earlier. Ferritin contains iron that we don't presently need. And that's where the long distance runners I was talking about, or if you are a body stepper or an aerobics, that's where it kicks in. It is sometimes called an iron storage protein. Ferritin is produced by nearly every cell of the body. The brain contains huge amounts of ferritin, so does the liver. Ferritin is a very large molecule. One ferritin molecule can hold up to 4,500 atoms of iron. Elevated serum ferritin can be a sign that the person has inflammation due to disease, or that potential disease-causing factors such as iron overload may be present. Like transferrin, ferritin can also become unstable and ineffective. Think of ferritin like a big sink. When this sink gets full, ferritin and its iron can be changed into something called hemosiderin. Hemosiderin is a yellowish brown substance that contains ferric oxide, which is rust on metal. Basically, you leave a piece of metal out, an iron pole or something out, and it rusts. So it's in your body too, and it can be produced in your body. A small amount of the hemosiderin in tissue is probably normal and may not be harmful, but when large amounts of this substance is allowed to collect in organs, it becomes a threat to you, to your good health. Hemosiderin can accumulate in cells of the heart, liver, lungs, pancreas, central nervous system, thyroid, reproductive organs, skin, adrenals, pituitary, and thyroid gland. When the buildup of hemosiderin is great, the organs cannot function properly. So, for example, when beta cells, insulin-producing cells of the pancreas that produce the insulin, that diabetics have trouble with, are loaded with hemosiderin, these cells become unable to produce or store adequate amounts of hormone insulin, and this results in diabetes. Free iron can provide nourishment for bacteria such as Yersinia, Listeria, and Vibrio. These bacteria are harmless for people with normal iron levels, but when transferrin is highly saturated with iron, these three bacteria contained in shellfish, such as oysters, for an example, can cause life-threatening infection, blood poisoning, basically is what they're talking about, called septicemia. You become septic, basically, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that, being septic, and it's deadly. You can die. If the death by septicemia can occur within hours. It's not like you got days. You only have a few hours. And finally, there are bacteria such as the one that causes tuberculosis that grow best inside macrophages that are iron loaded. But it also, another pathogen is protozoan, and that causes malaria and can get into the red blood cells to obtain iron necessary to thrive. So these bacteria that I just mentioned also require iron. Malaria, to become septic, and with septic, that's nothing you want to mess around with because you only have hours, and then it's over, lights out. And I've talked about macrophages before, which are the white blood cells that protect us against disease. They are the cleanup crew, the scavengers. They scavenge for what they do is they scavenge for harmful invaders that enter your bloodstream, bacterias, and when the macrophage is called into action, what it does is it eats, engulfs that bacteria or the harmful debris, and it traps it so it cannot thrive and live and flourish and spread disease throughout your body. Iron-loaded macrophages are helpless, though. If they get too much iron-loaded macrophages are helpless to defend you against those, what they call them opportunistic infections, or, you know, and diseases, opportunistic, because if your body is weak in any way, shape, or form, that's an opportunity for them to thrive and grow and multiply. Result, you're very sick or you die. So, an example, let me give you an example. Iron-loaded alveolar, those are lung macrophages. They live inside, they're inside your lungs. They migrate to the bladder and they increase a risk of bladder disease. And for this reason, people who smoke are at risk for many diseases, especially cancer. Cancer cells thrive on iron because that iron has that oxygen in it, and cancer requires oxygen in order to thrive. So anyway, iron that is not absorbed, this is really important. For those with normal iron metabolism, unabsorbed iron, and about 90% of iron ingested through diet and supplements is taken up by specific cells in the intestinal tract called enterocytes. These cells become engorged with iron, die, drop off, and are excreted in your feces. Now, if you have any of these problems, you don't want to be walking barefooted on the beach and step on any shells. I think I read this earlier, because what happens is you damage, and if you're at risk, you can become septic just from stepping on a shellfish, and you don't want to eat shellfish. So anyway, that is something that is really important, and I felt that I needed to convey this to y'all. So let me, now that I'm done with this, let me move on. I'm gonna do the Arnold. So, this is for the shoulders, and way back before Arnold became famous and became a movie star. Well, anyway, he injured his shoulder when he was coming up on competition, and rather than give up on his workout, he worked through the injury, and this is what he came up with, and he actually won the competition with an injury and everything. It's called the Arnold move. You bring your elbows up to shoulder level, you open up your chest, then you push, working the full range of the muscles in the deltoids, and then you close it in, and then you drop back down to shoulder level, and then you push it back up, and you open up, you reverse the move, and bring it down and bring it in. Right here, I'm gonna give you a profile, out, push up, in, and drop down, and then reverse, right here. And you will get that definition in your shoulders. Your shoulders will be strengthened. You will become stronger, fitter, and you will have some hot looking shoulders. Anyway, thank you for dropping in and spending your Sunday with me, with Health and Wellness Sunday. And please like me. Please pass this video on to anybody you think would benefit from this, especially someone who may have an iron issue and be anemic. the information is something that they really need to know. Don't forget, do not take iron supplements without the advisory of a doctor. And if you have any questions, and thank you for those people that, you people that are out there that have emailed me and have sent me requests. So if you have any questions, requests, or comments, please post them on YouTube or email me at stellarmindbody@gmail.com, and I will get back with you. And I will either answer you through email, or I will address on YouTube, or I will do all the above. Anyway, welcome in and welcome out. We will see you next week. Have a good rest of the Sunday.